Hey everybody, I'm Quincy Jones, and this is the AYA at USC Weekend Retreat Getaway Screening, brought to you by the USC Norris Cancer Center and Digital Health Networks. Today's panel is going to be Moderate Ethan Zahn, who's a two-time cancer survivor and winner of CBS's Survivor Africa series. Hello! Followed by Dr. Earl Kupperberg, which is AYA at USC's program manager, Dr. Gino N, who's a professor of clinical medicine at USC Keck, and also his bigger credit is my personal oncologist. There's Dr. Brad Zabrak, who's University of Michigan School of Social Work, and then we have Chris Birmingham, who's AYA from the film, and Siobhan Hebron, who's AY from the film. I think you guys are going to enjoy it, and I hope you do, okay? This is Quincy Jones signing off, and enjoy the movie.
It's the third annual AYA retreat here at USC Norris Cancer Center.
We're people who you don't typically expect to have cancer.
I get a lot of people that come up to me and they're like, oh, you're 26 and you have cancer? You look fine. Oh, you're so young. Why do you have cancer? And it's very annoying.
Ultimately, people look at me with the eye of the sympathy. But cancer patient, we don't need a sympathy, we need an empathy.
It's such a unique time of life
where they just started developing their relationship with friends, their romantic relationship, finding their identity.
This is building a community, bringing young adults together with peers to develop relationships for support.
I am a recent survivor of kidney cancer.
I get diagnosed with lung cancer about 3 years ago.
I am an AYA survivor of melanoma. I didn't know anybody else my age with cancer for 2 years after I was diagnosed. There was no AYA program where I was living, and so I was basically me by myself, which kind of sucked.
Kind of a primary goal is to make sure that people feel that they belong somewhere.
I'm looking forward to mostly making new friends, making great connections with people who are going through the same experiences right now.
I know some people who are just going through it now, and if I can give them any of the support that I wasn't able to get, that would be awesome.
My name's Chad Edwards. I'm the program director at Camp Ronald McDonald for Good Times, and this weekend we're welcoming the USC AYA group. The bus just got here, so we're going to get everybody fed, and then bring them into the room next door, play a few icebreaker games so we can get the weekend rolling.
And first of all, I want to welcome everyone. We have optional group activities, and you can also choose nothing and relax in your cabin.
Introduce yourself. Hey, I'm Chad. Nice to meet you, Campy. Are there any of these that speak to you that you say, work? Yes, she's the Flosses Daily, and she has traveled to another country. Sign her name on both of those spots. Count how many squares you had someone sign. If you have 15, stay standing. 19, 23. Whoa! All right, we got 3 here. 24. Oh, our 3 winners. Well done. These are only 24 things. There are an infinite number that you might have in common with each other, so try to continue this throughout the weekend. We're gonna go move into cabins, and we'll all meet over at the campfire to fire that up, have some s'mores.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning.
So my name is Nicole. I am a young survivor, and I'm actually the sibling of a survivor.
As somebody who was really young when they were diagnosed, there was this emphasis on treatment and this emphasis on being done with your treatment, but then I felt so alone, and I felt like I hadn't really been given the space to explore the fallout that comes from cancer.
And this is my mom, Christine.
I have been a cancer researcher for the last 20 years.
Last year I had this book published. It's called Wakeful Night. And it's a book that guides somebody who's either dealing with a diagnosis or has a loved one with a diagnosis kind of explore cancer-related losses and the opportunities for what I call illumination.
I wanted to lead you guys through an exercise around ritual.
I think ritual is a really powerful way to mark a new beginning, to let go, to share publicly or with your loved one something that's really important to you.
Fire is also a really amazing tool for ritual. It's associated with cleansing and purification.
We'll also be creating like a beautiful little object that we're all going to later on together throw into the fire to sort of mark where we are and honor our intention.
Use this time this morning to try to connect with a new person.
Biggest band in the world at the time. I know, it's crazy, you've never heard of us. We're in a band called Moon Tower, and since we graduated, we've been touring like all over the world-ish. We're all here because we're interested in writing music or just how writing music works. For people who want to write, hopefully maybe we can help kind of dissecting how pop songs are written, and then we'll break into groups and we'll write a song.
It's really cool that you could hear the, what is it, a hawk or something?
My name's Cindy Tomlinson. I'm Ariel Tomlinson, and I'm here as her caregiver daughter.
Cancer has become our family. I've done it twice, so I'm kind of a overachiever.
The song Rockstar by Post Malone is actually written in a traditional Beatles song form. Pop music hasn't changed very much in the last 70 years.
There's something so empowering about community. As different as we are, how much we are the same, and people coming together to understand each other's stories.
Are you emoting something that feels honest to you? And if it feels honest to you, it'll feel honest to other people.
Be true to yourself, go through it how you see fit, and no one can really tell you how you will handle that news, but I would say you will handle it.
Use your verses for that really deep, specific life experience, and use your choruses for that big general message.
Try not to tell them, oh, it'll get better, or, those types of comments.
It's black days we fell on.
Be with them in their sorrow or their pain.
Show me how to handle the pain.
Then show them the light. Crack a joke or, do something that kind of brings them back out of their darkest place.
That's great. The thing I would tell the younger me is talk about it, that it's not a stigma, it's actually a badge of honor. You're a chosen one, and I think once I realized that my life had been chosen to be empowered by this disease, it was a different way of handling it.
They said there was no water.
It's so great. Get to catch up with a lot of friends and to do some music writing section. Oh yeah, I make this. Yay! So I write a love letter here, and I'm gonna burn it tonight. Kind of a ritual thing. To let go of something.
Right now we're out at our climbing tower. It's a 50-foot alpine climbing tower where the folks this week can have the opportunity to step outside of their comfort zone, get harnessed up, and see about climbing as high as they would like to.
And then when you're ready, I'm going to lower you to the ground. Okay?
Ready to climb, Joe?
Climb on.
It's crazy out here, it's windy, but that's part of what makes it so awesome. There's a level of intimacy, experience, connection that you can have with somebody who understands, who's been through it, and it's really, really meaningful to me.
So far, it's been great. I just climbed the tower and, didn't know what to expect, but the way I tried to see it was like treatment. It's hard at first, you want to give up, but once you make it to the top, you get a whole new vision and a whole new light on everything.
I'm John Rudnitsky.
I'm Jake Nordwind.
And we are comedians.
Alright, so this is
go on the road everywhere. We do stand-up.
We perform all over the country.
Really performed everywhere.
Jake and I've been on TV a couple times.
We've, well, you're talking about like local news.
It's like, no, like shows and movies and stuff.
Oh yeah, sure, but also local news.
We've also been on the local news.
I am Quincy Jones, the comedian. You're gonna hear some jokes. Some might be PG-13. Kids, cover your ears.
Right now, there's like a bad relationship, but only one of us is still trying to make it work.
It's nice to meet other young adults with cancer. I have cancer. I have peritoneal mesothelioma. I got diagnosed July 3rd, 2015. There is no cure for mine, so I do chemo every 3 weeks until it doesn't work anymore. Then I'm gonna go to Valencia, Spain, invest in a small paella shop in Sangria, and wither away.
Are you guys ready for some music? Let's get it one more time!
A lot of times cancer elicits feelings of like what we grew up as a kid. Like you hear cancer, like your grandma has cancer. And now to be out here, you see people functioning, being active. You see NFL players getting cancer and bouncing back. It's good to be around here with other young adults with cancer who are actively fighting it and meeting other people, different advocates, nurses, doctors. It's really informative.
Take care of each other and take care of yourself.
It's early, it's before breakfast. My name is Siobhan, and I have brain cancer. This is my third time here, and every year it's more people, more young adults and their partners or caregivers. We have hiked to the waterless falls that actually have some water this year. The absolute best part, getting to meet others and spend some time outside of the hospitals, outside of the city. This is not a scene that's readily available to me. That being said, you can absolutely make your special place anywhere. Any person with cancer who's struggling or even just doing okay, just surviving, not quite living, there's a total possibility to just step outside of your house, try to get a deep breath of fresh air, try to do something that is kind to yourself.
So how this is gonna work is 1 whistle means shoot when ready, 2 whistles, bows down, and 3 whistles are retrieving your arrows.
My name is Gino In. I'm a medical oncologist. I work at the University of Southern California Norris Comprehensive Cancer Center. I'm just one of the physicians that comes here in the background in case of any major emergencies or anything. I'm here, but kind of a nice break for us too.
Oh, nice.
My name is Jacob Thomas. I'm a medical oncologist with USC. AYA patients that are diagnosed between 18 and 39 aren't thinking about getting cancer the way that people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s are.
I think one thing we've all realized and learned a lot from is that it's really difficult to know what's the full spectrum of challenges that this particular population faces.
They typically feel very isolated, feel like they're the only one experiencing like what they're going through.
They may be dealing with raising a family, career changes. There's physical problems that we don't think about, the stresses of body image, fertility, emotional problems, knowing what to do with their finances. And it's just different because everybody has different coping mechanisms. The one thing we can always say is that we have to really engage these patients because at the end of the day, they tell us things which we never even expected to hear. And so it's important that we have that communication and that there's like a partnership. I think having a multidisciplinary team is critical. Sometimes it's good to engage their caregiver as well, whether it's their family, their friends, their significant other. Sometimes you learn other things which are going on and which are very important for their overall care as well.
Yeah, I got a nibble. I heard they've been stealing a lot of cheese, but they're crafty ones today.
It went perfectly, just like I said.
People didn't know each other.
At the end, they're together as one big group.
With a lot of fun, with a lot of love.
One word to describe this weekend.
Family.
Poignant.
Connection.
Perfect. Fun. Community.
Magical.
Refreshing.
Awesome.
Relaxing. here. Let's get the sun. Let's get here in the sun. I need all the beautiful faces here, guys. I'm going to block the tiny kids real quick.
So the weekend is over. I'm super happy to catch up with everyone. And I hope we're gonna keep this spirit and build a stronger AYA community from here on.
I've been putting off meeting these young cancer survivors, and I think it's exactly what I needed.
The unfair stigma with cancer is that we're going to just be feeble, weak people, but that is far from the truth. We are very strong people. We're survivors. We're people who fight, who keep on fighting, and we have a lot of things to fight for.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to the AYA at USC and the wonderful premiere of the Weekend Getaway Retreat film. We got an awesome panel for you tonight, and we'll get to everyone's introductions. But first, I just love to introduce myself again. As Quincy Jones let you know, my name's Ethan Zahn. I was a former professional soccer player, winner of the reality show Survivor Africa, co-founder of the adolescent health organization called Grassroots Soccer, and I'm a two-time cancer crusher. And I'm really excited to be here with everyone tonight. And we're going to be taking questions from everyone who's tuning in. So if you have a question, you can tweet a question to @DHN Television, and we'll be moderating that and being able to see your questions to ask them to our panelists. So let's go around the horn, and I will call out your name and give a quick introduction. And I'd love just to know right off the bat what your favorite part of camp is. And then we'll get into a little deep dive of all the awesome stuff that's happening at the Weekend Getaway Retreats. So Aura, why don't you start us off?
Okay, thank you, Ethan, so much. And thank you, everyone, for being here, and for Eric and Jonathan. Good evening. I'm Dr. Aura Cooperberg, Project Administrator at the USC, the AYA at USC Norris Comprehensive Cancer Center, where I've been developing programs for young adults for almost 5 years. And I'm not a medical doctor, but I'm a social worker, and I'm a USC Yay Trojan for many things, even for all my degrees, even including a degree in gerontology for those who don't know, which is a surprise. But I've made my entire career, the last 40 years, working with teenagers and young adults with cancer. So thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And why don't we move on to Brad?
Thanks, Ethan. Hi, everybody. I'm Brad Zebrak, former social worker, worked a lot with children, teenagers, and young adults diagnosed with cancer. Now a professor of social work at the University of Michigan. And just want to put out that this year I'm celebrating 2 key milestones in my life. 10 days ago, I turned 60 years old. And in 2 weeks from today, I will be celebrating 35 years of cancer survivorship.
Wow.
Diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma at the age of 25. So it's very meaningful to be here tonight and be a part of this panel. Thank you.
Wonderful. You are an old school survivor, Brad.
I'm glad you added school after the word old.
And let's hear from Chris.
Thanks, Ethan. Hi, everybody. My name is Chris Birmingham, and I am a melanoma survivor. I was diagnosed in 2015. One interesting fact about me is I'm actually also a Trojan. Now I have started a PhD in robotics there.
Holy moly. Smart, a lot of smart people on this. And how about Dr. Gino?
Yeah, hey, thanks, Ethan. I'm Gino In. I'm an assistant professor of medicine at USC, and I'm a melanoma oncologist, and yeah, passionate about helping patients.
Wonderful. And Siobhan.
Yeah, hi, Ethan. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name's Siobhan. I got diagnosed in 2014 when I was 24 years old with an inoperable brain tumor. So I went through surgeries, chemo, radiation, all the fun stuff that you hear about. I am actually a Bruin. I'm sorry I got treated at UCLA, but they were wonderful to me. Now pursuing a certificate program in patient advocacy so I can do more for the community. And yeah, camp, I don't know, favorite part about camp, that's a tough one. Maybe the campfires.
You're actually the only person who answered that question, so major points for that. Well, awesome, everyone. So once again, if you got questions, tweet us at DHN Television, but or why don't we kick it off? What makes these retreats so important?
Okay, well, let me first tell you one thing, is that I go back from 1986. I started a teen program with a group of my colleagues, so I'm a real pioneer. And back then, we did retreats for teenagers. So when you say what makes something important for teens and what makes something for young adults, when I came over to USC about 5 years ago to the Norris Cancer Center, I thought it would be, oh, I'm an expert, but not really. I learned so much from my fellow young adults here. I just thank them so much, and from my colleagues, because it was a real learning curve. So when you say what's so important for teenagers, I found it was important to be away from home and with their peers. And for the young adults, I found being they want to have home come with them. There are options, having your family caregiver with you is maybe very important. And your life situation, being married, single, having children really makes a big difference. So what makes it important, you're asking, is that no matter whether you're a teenager or a young adult, you are feeling isolated and alone. Even if you have good family and friend support, you never really have the support or knowing unless you're with someone who's been in the shoes, really lived it. So it's very important to be with others who understand, to feel normal, getting, to reducing, I think being on these retreats really reduces stress, anxiety, depression. I know Brad maybe will speak a little bit more about that later. And learning from each other. There's so much learning that goes on. When Siobhan just said about being around the campfire, I have a feeling that's kind of the informal learning. You just kind of learn from each other. It's so important. And one of my favorite things is that I think being part of a retreat, because you have patients and survivors there, people from the whole cancer journey, that the giving is almost just as good as the receiving, and you have so much opportunity to give to others. And that really, fosters self-esteem and gives you purpose in meeting into experience. So that's kind of like, I think in
incredibly well said.
A lot more, but it's good. Thank you.
No, that's good. Speaking from experience, having done some of these camps, one particularly called First Descent, I know that's just like nothing creates comfort and confidence more than knowing you're not facing a life challenge alone. And I truly felt that when being part of these like adventure outdoor camps. But I'd love to hear from Brad, because you actually study this stuff on a clinical side, and you found some really interesting information on like clinically why this is so important for the young adult to have experiences like this in their survivorship.
Sure, Ethan. Yeah, years ago, I was also in a role like Aura, being involved in delivering, doing these programs for adolescents and young adults. And I remember kind of doctors sometimes being a little condescending about it and saying, oh, it's really nice that you do this kind of thing for young people with cancer. And while I was doing my training for research, I thought, I wonder if there's any scientific evidence that we could really find that also supports why these things are so important. So I've also done some work with First Ascent a few years ago. We did some work where we looked at the rates of depression amongst young people before they went on a First Ascent trip. And then we did another evaluation of them right at the end of the trip, and then 1 month later. And what we found was that for those participants who reported clinical depression before they went on the trip, afterwards, they looked the same as everybody else, that their rates of depression had lowered to a point that they matched everybody else. And not only that, 1 month later, they continued to have those lowered rates of depression. You know, if you're familiar at all with First Ascent, they have a tagline called "Prescribe Adventure," because what we found from this report was that getting out in the outdoors, but also being out with peers and connecting with one another, just like what Aura was talking about, connecting with other young people with cancer who really understand what it is that you've gone through, is a very powerful treatment. And you know what? There's no side effects as you might have from antidepressant medication. So I think being out there and really, getting young people connected is so key.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'd love to hear from Dr. Gino in terms of, I mean, you're a physician, so like what makes young adults kind of different than other cancer patients?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I think that as physicians, we're sort of trained to approach our patients, with their medical problems kind of in a very textbook sort of way. And, over the years, having treated more and more young adult patients with cancer, I've been very humbled to realize how much I didn't know. And I think actually going to the Getaway was one of the first times where I was invited actually just to be the supervising physician, just to kind of, I was there in case of emergency. And, but I was surprised at how little I understood about these patients who I was around all the time, just seeing how they interacted and seeing what was important and meaningful to them. Because unlike, your more typical cancer patients who maybe are in the geriatric age range, I mean, they have such different, obstacles and challenges, and also goals and aspirations in what they're looking for. I mentioned to some of the others a story about a girl that I was treating who was 15 years old when I first met her. And she would show up with her parents, and she'd be bright and energetic and cheerful and never complained about anything. And so I thought all was going well. And then only after she had come to see me 2 or 3 times, and she progressively kept, trying out new hairdos and, was dyeing her hair pink. And then the next time it'd be blue. Did one of the other physicians ask me why she was doing that? And then, we sort of dug a little bit deeper and realized that, there were some issues with her, establishing an identity amongst her peers. And, I felt really disappointed in myself for failing to realize what an important thing that was for somebody at that point in their life.
Yeah. I mean, I had a similar experience. I had Hodgkin's lymphoma, chemo, radiation, autologous stem cell transplant, which failed. Then I have an allogeneic transplant, which now I'm in remission for about 8 years. But I remember just trying to get into the world again, and exactly what you said. Like, I didn't have a job. I didn't know what it would like to be dating people. Like, I was a total disaster. I'm not the person you want to bring home to your parents. So all those things, my health insurance is all messed up. So like, there's a whole host of issues that a young adult cancer survivor faces that's different than pediatrics or the older adults as well. So I appreciate everything that you're doing here.
Yeah, I mean, just like Aura said, it's trying to grow up in the world, establish your life, whether it's school, work, family, relationships. That's a lot to deal with if you're already trying to get through your cancer treatment too.
Definitely agree, and that's why these retreats are so incredible. But let's talk to someone who went to the retreat as a cancer patient / survivor. Siobhan, why did you first choose to visit one of these camps? I mean, it pushes you outside of your comfort zone. And for me, my first trip, I was a little bit scared. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I thrive on like adventure type stuff. But so what inspired you to go check it out?
Well, actually, I had actually gone on a couple of treks with True North treks, which is similar to First Ascents. So I'd had a little bit of experience with kind of the, quote unquote wilderness therapy types of things, and I definitely benefited from that before. And I really seen the benefits that you can get from being among just like what everyone is saying, people our age who get the specific challenges that we're going through. But then I ended up getting connected with USC and with Aura and with the rest of the team there. And it just kind of happened organically. I was lucky enough to be able to go on the first iteration of, the retreat. And I've been able to go for the last 2 times as well. And it's been truly remarkable being able to spend the time a bit more time outside of, maybe like the support group room, which is really only like an hour long, and really get to spend a whole weekend with, your true peers at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it looked fantastic. I had little flashbacks from Survivor when I was around the fire. At least you guys had food. We didn't have any food out there. But I know you're an artist, you're a writer. How did that, come into play during these retreats or in your healing and your survivorship?
I'm not so sure that really art and writing came into much of play during the retreats, but I take a lot of time to kind of absorb other people's experiences and sources. So I spent a lot of time reading other, young adult cancer experiences and listening to my fellow peers there, and just being able to take away something broader than my own experience, because we talk about cancer like it's kind of like this big monolith, but really everyone has such a vastly different experience, and that's a really valuable thing to see up at the camp.
And Chris, you mentioned that like you hadn't met anyone like your age that had cancer for about 2 years until you visited camp. Like, what was that experience like? Where are you from? And then what inspired you? I'm curious to take the leap to go to camp.
Yeah, so for me, it was really tough because, as you said, I grew up in Washington. I graduated from college, and pretty shortly thereafter was diagnosed with melanoma. And, being post-college with everybody flying off to the four corners of the world to do their own thing, and being left behind a little bit, it was hard. And I did not know anyone who was my age who had cancer, or at the time I didn't know anybody who did have cancer. And so it was a bit lonely going through that experience, and it was challenging. But like when I came to Los Angeles and came to USC, I was introduced to the first time to the concept of AYA and like the idea that there are other people out there, not the only one, who has gone through this experience. And so many resources were shared, and so many wonderful things, including the like the support group that we do there, and the meetings that we have were all, really powerful to introduce me to other people. It was amazing. And I, wanted more of that. So I wanted to meet more people, to experience it more. And that's why I decided to join on the camp retreat.
Wonderful. And you went the first couple times solo, and then you brought your girlfriend. What was that experience like?
So that was actually the first time I had gone as well, but I went with my partner, and it was really wonderful to have the opportunity to bring her with me, because it's a part of my life. It's become a huge part of my life to have to meet with other people, to have friends who are AYAs. I've become a part of this community, and I want to share that with her. And so to bring her along and have her experience all of that with me was truly amazing. And
I'm so grateful that I got the opportunity to share that with her and to have her meet my friends and, you know, have that experience with me.
Yeah. Did she talk to any other like girlfriends of guys who had cancer? Did that help like create a safer experience for her and just understand a little bit more?
I think that, you know, maybe a little bit. I don't know how many how many guys actually brought their girlfriends to cancer camp. But just meeting my friends, even, you know, like the people who I'm friends with, and being introduced to that community was huge.
Aura. I mean, looks like these camps. I saw archery. I saw there's tons of food. There's fire. There's, you know, kayaking. There's fishing. Like, looks like it takes a lot to get one of these events off the ground. Like, what does it take to kind of create one of these things, you know, for the young adult community?
I feel like I've been doing 40 of them for the last, some odd years. So I should have it down. But I think the first thing is having just an unbelievable donor that will support you. And we have that. And we've had that since 1992 with the Audrey Ermis Foundation for Social Justice. They're incredible, and they've been just incredibly supportive. So having the funding is important. Having the staff, of course, and people that are committed and really believe in this, and having the medical staff. I know Dr. In has just been incredible. Just having medical staff there is also something you have to think about. And of course, the model, you have to look at the model and the age. Like I said, when I did teenagers, it was very different than doing young adults. So just looking at what that is, what the outcome, what do you want to get from it? I know with the camp now, just having a camp experience for young adults versus having, you know, there's camps for kids, camps for even teens, but camps for young adults is kind of an unusual thing.
Right. So who do you think benefits most? Like, what type of, is there a type of patient that you're looking to attract, or who benefits most from a camp like this?
You know, it's kind of interesting because I think it's a mix. We've always had the mix of those on treatment and off of treatment. And of course now, including caregivers, the family caregivers or friend caregiver is really quite impactful too. I think what's wonderful, I was thinking about it, that so many times there is like a prescription, you know, someone's going through some crisis and you got to go and, you know, you need to see someone, which is something that everybody at some point probably should do. But this is something that's not based on crisis. It's really just open for anybody that wants to come and just meet other people. So I would say that up to age 39, we're here.
Great. Yeah, I was diagnosed at 35, so it was an interesting experience for me being diagnosed at 35, and I went to some of these events with, you know, kids that are 15, 16, 17, and it's interesting the differences, but the similarities is what really brought us together. So, Brad, I'm interested in learning a little bit more, like if you are a young adult cancer survivor, like, and you're looking for help based on some of your research, what recommendations can you give folks that are looking for help?
I think I would just reinforce what we've been talking about here tonight to try and get connected, to look for organizations and opportunities to meet other young people, you know, who perhaps have gone through what you might be going through now. You know, we several of you tonight talked too about this idea about, you know, identity development, growing up, you know, when you're in your teen years and then you're in your 20s, you know, to be isolated is really one of the hardest things to deal with when you're trying to figure out what you want to do, you know, with your life and the rest of your life. And one of the ways we learn to do that is to be in connection with other people. We look to role models, we look to our peers, we look to see how they live their lives, and there's things that we like and we'd like to bring that into our own life. And then we see things that other people are doing. I don't want to do that. I don't want that to be a characteristic that defines me. And that has to happen in connection with other people. So like I know it can be difficult when you're sitting at home and you've just been through chemo and you feel sick and you don't want to talk to your friends and you don't want to go anywhere. Maybe just think in terms of small steps. What could be an easy connection, maybe through social media, through an AYA support program like what Aura, you know, is running at AYA USC. You know, be a lurker for a little bit, just kind of check it out, see if it's for you. And then maybe, the next time you hear about it, you see it, you're feeling a little better, maybe push yourself a little bit more. Because I know it's like someone tonight talked about too, getting pushed out of your comfort zone. I think, Ethan, you were saying that to Siobhan. So yeah, it does take a little bit of courage, but on the other side, there's a great value, there's a great benefit. Aura has seen it for decades in the work that she's done, and the research bears it out as well.
Wonderful. Yeah. And I know, like, in terms of connection, when I was going through my cancer, I worked with an organization called Immerman Angels. Actually, this shirt right here should say Immerman Angels on it. So it's like a peer-to-peer support group, free, where they pair, like, I was a 35-year-old soccer player guy with a girlfriend. They matched me up with a 35-year-old soccer player guy who had a girlfriend and survived. So I could speak with him, and he was my angel mentor, which is an incredible organization. Teen Cancer America has a program like that too, where they'll match you up. So, and I found that super helpful for me. In fact, my mom got paired up with the mom of a son who had cancer. And my girlfriend at the time got paired up with the girlfriend of a guy who had cancer. So hugely impacted my entire family in a major way. And it's just that, it's that instant connection, and just, it's an unbiased, like, when I had cancer, I never felt like so much love, but I've never felt so alone in my life. And because everyone goes through cancer and everyone's experience is different, and no one knows what that experience is like unless you've gone through it yourself. And so it's just, I couldn't find anyone to connect with, and Immerman Angels is pretty awesome. So
yeah. Can I just say something to Chris?
Yeah, you please.
So Chris, my wife of 30 years, I also met right before I had been diagnosed with cancer. Like I said, now it's been 30 years, and we used to joke that while I was the one who survived the cancer, she was the one who survived the treatment.
I think I relate to that. The experience of going through cancer with someone by your side, it either brings you together or tears you apart. And I'm one of the lucky few who was definitely brought together. And it's amazing to have a partner. You need a support system. I mentioned that I didn't know any other young adults, and so that meant that I relied extremely heavily on her. And part of what I want to do is, and one of the reasons why I continue to be involved, is so that other people don't experience going through this without somebody else, because they're not always as lucky as I was to have a partner who is so supportive. But you need a network. You need people who have your back, who care about you, and like anybody who can do that. If I can do that, I want to do that.
And you're on the AYA Advisory Council, and so what does that involve? And what would you like to say to other folks that may be a little bit hesitant to reach out, or a similar situation as you, where they don't know anyone? I mean, well, now they do because they're watching, but what would you have to say to some folks that are just like us?
Yeah, so as for being on the AYA Council, that's mostly just so that I can help advise Aura and the team there to develop programs and things that I think will actually benefit people, activities that young adults love to do. And so, creating that content, doing that with them, that's really important to me. And for people who are out there who are lurking right now and aren't sure, do I really want to go to a support group? I don't know. That sounds kind of scary. That sounds like it'd be awkward. We're a group of people who are, going through similar things. As has been said here, it's the same for a lot of, there's a lot that's the same, and there's a lot that is absolutely different. And, understanding that and making sure that we support each other with the things that are different, and we share with each other the things that are the same, so that you're not going through it alone. You're going through it with a team, with people who care about you and who have been there before. And so that's what we're about. That's what we want to do. We want to make sure that your experience is just a little bit better.
Looks like you're doing a really good job. Siobhan, we just mentioned that you did attend camp once with one of your best friends. What was that experience like? And you went alone, and then you went with your best friend.
Yeah. So They were different experiences, but yeah, the second time I took my best friend Allison, who I'd lived with before I got diagnosed. I lived, as roommates through college, got randomly paired up, ended up being best friends. So we'd actually lived together basically the length of like a common law marriage by the time that I got diagnosed. And she was right there the whole time with me. And so when it came time that we could actually bring kind of caregivers or just essentially just people in our lives who had been there for us and helped us through it, she was a pretty obvious choice. And it was really nice. It's a much different experience being with someone who has been with you, but not through other people's cancer. Right. So it was unique, to say the least.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, I actually didn't necessarily have a best friend that was there with me. I had my family, of course, and my girlfriend at the time, but it was weird. I actually had a little bit of a difficult time connecting with my guy friends. I wanted my life to be back to normal. They didn't necessarily know how to talk to me. And it was just kind of this weird dance around what was really going on. And I remember that being an awkward situation.
Yeah, it's very strange being a young adult among other young adults who don't have a potentially terminal chronic illness that changes your whole life.
Yes, definitely. Dr. Gino, I haven't come to you in a while, but I'm curious to know, how do you identify some of the challenges that young adults are, facing, and from going to the camp over the past couple of years, what have you learned most that makes probably you a better doctor yourself?
Well, I guess, kind of going back to what you were just saying about the conversations you have and the dialogues that I saw when I was at the camp, I found that, Siobhan and others who are young adults with cancer, the way they communicated with each other absolutely blew my mind. I mean, the comments, the emotions, and the conversations they had about their experiences, it just felt like they were such taboo topics that I would have been horrified to even bring up. And they were just so honest and so deep, and it really completely changed my perspective on what they're experiencing, 180 degrees.
What are some of those topics, if you don't mind me asking? I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but.
No, I just, I think it's, one of the AYAs is, I think, a member of the F cancer group. And I think that title very aptly sums up what they're experiencing and their, I think, a great deal of their emotion. And just to hear them verbalize that in a way, I mean, I'm seeing the faces of people who, to me, they look like they're at war with cancer, and it made it very real. And I felt like they were bonding over it too. And I think to hear them talk about the different struggles that they had in their own lives, really impressed me. I mean, some of them are, in school, some of them are, very successful people with, incredible jobs. Some of them are raising families. I think those are, as a physician, those aren't the first things that we ask the patients about when we interact with them in the clinic. It's humbling to me to think to myself, okay, well, what more can we do? What are we missing here? And where are the priorities? Because it's got to be a holistic approach.
Yeah. Well, I'm so happy you had such a good experience and saw it firsthand, what we are really talking about when we're not in the hospital. So Brad, as we're wrapping things up, Brad, I'd love to just hear, what do you think is one of the most important takeaways people at home or watching can take away from tonight?
Cancer sucks.
Yeah.
And I'll actually say that one of my proudest moments was having a journal article published in a medical journal called Cancer Sucks. That, I think it's just important to acknowledge that what you're going through is tough. It's challenging. And if there's days where you just don't want to get out of bed, you got to give yourself that space and to say, today, I just want to be here. But to recognize that tomorrow's a different day. 2 days later, it's a different day. Every day is a different opportunity to explore what other opportunities, what other options are out there. I know for people, for example, who are very physically active, cancer can really disrupt those capabilities. And I think one of the greatest challenges is, well, like, to figure out what can you do? What can you do today? If you can today, you roll out of bed, you can do one sit-up. Well, maybe one sit-up is one more than you did yesterday.
Yeah.
And maybe tomorrow it's going to be two. And it's really, I think one of the biggest challenges is to recognize that it's difficult, but it's an opportunity to explore what are the new goals in my life that I can set for myself, and how can I get there? And back to kind of wrap up what we've been talking about tonight, getting connected to other survivors, hearing their stories, seeing what they've done to cope and be successful in coping. Cancer disrupts sex, it disrupts relationships, it disrupts your appetite, it disrupts your sleep. I mean, there's all these aspects of their lives, but the connection to other young people and to hear what they've done, what strategies they've been able to incorporate in their lives, you can take those and go, oh, let me try that. Maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't, but maybe the next strategy you hear about from somebody else becomes the thing that works for you.
Very well said. Yeah, I try to live these days by making sure to never let a crisis go to waste, because there's an opportunity to do some really important things. Mm-hmm. I think, Aura, what do you want viewers to take away and remember from this event?
From this event this evening? I think, just to reiterate what everyone says, how important connection and community is. I think building a community is always something I've worked towards. No matter, when I worked at Children's or at Norris, it was building that community was always important. And the community is the fact that everyone is helping each other, just being there. And I think just being aware, everybody should be aware of what the issues are and how people can help. And there are just so many different programs. There are a lot of programs out there that can be of help. And you can meet, I would say, the support that you find the most helpful is out there. Like you said, Ethan, you can find someone individually, you can find groups, you can find different types of support.
But I think we're rolling up on 9 o'clock, and I just once again want to thank everyone who took the time out of their busy days to come be with us here at AYA at USC. And I want to thank Aura and Brad and Siobhan and Chris, Dr. In. Thank you so much for being here tonight. And if you need any more information about anything that's happening at USC and the young adult cancer community, please reach out. And thank you so much, everyone.